Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Welcome to our 26th lesson of our simplified Tajweed series, which is a series of Tajweed lessons introduced by Quran University uniquely designed Quran learning management system with the purpose of introducing Tajweed in a modern and easy approach. Through this series of lessons, you will be introduced to Tajweed rules using a unique, modern and innovative approach to teach Tajweed that utilizes the color codes of Mushaf al-Tajweed as a common denominator that links those lessons to Tajweed rules. With such approach, we aim to make the understanding of Tajweed rules much easier and to practically help you to apply those rules while reading the Quran. And our topic for this lesson is the presented Sukoon med and the Leen med, where we're going to learn about the concept, the meaning of the presented Sukoon and the definition of the Leen med. We'll illustrate that by giving examples on both types of meds and show how to apply Tajweed rules on both of them and practice what we have learned by extracting cases of presented Sukoon med and Leen med from selected verses of the Quran. But before we proceed with today's lesson, let's revise what we have learned in the previous introduction to med about the different types of vowel lengthening, different types of med. We've mentioned that there is a primary med, which is lengthened naturally for 2 units, and anything that is lengthened beyond 2 units is called secondary med. And we have mentioned that the primary med itself has similar meds that are associated with it. There is the exchange, substitute, and lesser connecting meds, 3 types of med in addition to the primary, while the secondary med is further classified under 2 categories based on what causes the lengthening beyond natural, where it can be caused either by a hamza or by a sukoon. Those that are due to hamzas are 3. They are the attached, separated, and greater connecting med. Those that are due to sukoon are basically the compulsory med, the incidental sukoon med, and the soft Leen med. So we've learned that there are 9 types of med, and we learned also that some scholars would also add a 10th type. They call it the differentiation med, while other scholars consider this type as a subdivision of the compulsory med. So they are either 9 or 10 in total. And in the introduction of med, we also talked about the colors association for the different types of med, and we said that there are 4 colors given to the med among the 8 colors used in Tajweed color legend in Mushaf al-Tajweed. And yet we mentioned that the primary med and its associated exchange and substitute are not given any of these unique colors. It's given only the black color, which is the natural color given for the normal script, because the vowels in these types of meds are expected to be naturally lengthened, not more than the natural 2 units of any vowel. One more type of med is also associated with the primary. It is the lesser connecting because it is extended for the same period of the primary, which is 2 units. So if you see a vowel written in black or brown, you should elongate it for only 2 units. Now, anything other than that, these 3 colors would be secondary med. So whatever is due to hamza is given the mandatory elongation of 4 to 5 units and given this red color. And the incidental sukoon and its cousin, the soft Leen, are given the orange color, which is expected to be lengthened for an average of 4 units, ranging from 2 to 6. Now, the compulsory and differentiation are given the dark red, where it is compulsory to elongate those 2 types of meds for 6 units. And this lesson is dedicated to the 2 types of med that are related to the orange color in Mushaf al-Tajweed that are to be elongated for 2 to 4 to 6 units. And these meds are the incidental sukoon and the soft Leen. Both are types of secondary med because they are elongated for more than 2 units of time. In our Quran learning management system, whether we're using the desktop version or the mobile version, in both cases, we use the Uthmani script of Medina Mus'haf with Tajweed color codes, which we call Qawaid Alwan al-Tajweed or Tajweed color legend, where every Tajweed rule is given a unique color code. And among the colors of the Tajweed color legend, we'll find this orange color. Let's search now this Quran page for a vowel, a med letter, that is given this orange color. We'll find the ya of al-alamina, and al-alamina word has a fatha at the end of it. Now, this fatha would change into a sukoon upon stopping and pausing recitation at al-alamin. For that, and will be allowed upon pausing on al-alamin to elongate it for more than 2 units, where it can be elongated into 4 and up to 6 units. And that's why we call this med a presented Sukoon med. So the color related to the presented Sukoon med and its cousin, the Leen med in Mushaf al-Tajweed, is the orange color. If we look at this example, فَإِنَّكَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. The orange ya is a med letter in a word that we have stopped upon. This pause of recitation would convert the tanween into a sukoon. We call it presented sukoon. So rahimun would be pronounced rahim with a med that we call the presented sukoon med. There is another presented sukoon where the vowel, like the ya, is not a med letter but a lean letter. Like in this example, al-bayt. The ya here is a lean letter, and the same rule applies. If we stopped at a al-bayti, which has a kasra, we get a presented sukoon with a med al-bayt. But we call this lengthening here a lean med in order to differentiate it from the presented sukoon med. The lean is also presented sukoon, but it's caused by a lean letter. So in order to differentiate the two, we call this a lean med and that a presented sukoon med, and both of them has the same tajweed rule. The definition of both the presented sukoon med and the lean med is almost the same. Both occurs when a letter is followed by a presented sukoon upon pausing the recitation of the Quran. But the difference between the two definitions is in the type of the letter. In the presented sukoon, it's a med letter, while in the lean, it is a lean letter. So, what's the difference between a med letter and a lean letter? It is the vowel to be lengthened. It can be either a med letter or a lean letter, depending on a simple rule. Any of the 3 vowels can be a med letter. It can be either an a, or an u, or an e, because the rule to be a med letter could happen in all the 3 letters, which is to be still. The vowel should be still and should be homogeneous to its preceding letter. Now, in the case of lean, only 2 vowels can be lean letters, which is the u and e. The a cannot be a lean letter because the rule for being a lean letter only happens in these 2, which is to be still, like in here, but to have a fatha preceding the letter, a fatha preceding the waw and ya, and that is non-homogeneous. If we have a fatha preceding the a, it will be homogeneous, so this rule would not apply on the a. So we have 3 letters for the med, a, u, e, and only 2 letters for the lean, which is u and e. Now, let's take examples that will illustrate these rules. We revise what we have learned about med and lean from the lesson on the vowels and harakat that we have given at the early lessons of the series. In that lesson, we said that for a vowel to be elongated, it should be in sukoon, it should be in still status. And this rule applies for the 3 vowels, a, u, e. And we define the condition for the vowel to be a med when it is a still vowel with sukoon preceded by a homogeneous letter with matching haraka. So, to have a med, the a should be preceded by fatha, and the waw should be preceded by dhamma, and the ya should be preceded by kasra. So let's say first take examples about the alifs. As we said, it should be preceded by fatha, like qala. Qa has a fatha before the a. We can say qal. We can make a med. Ar-Rahman. The meme here has a fatha. We can say Ar-Rahman. Similarly, Malik. The meme has a fatha. Malik. Now, same thing applies for the waw, but it should be preceded by a dhamma. And the example is yaqulu. The qaf has a dhamma above it. Tu, bu, both has dhamma above them, the ta and the ba. And qulubuhum, the lam has a dhamma above it. Same thing applies for the ya, but it should be a kasra. So qeel, we can see that the ya here is a med because it's preceded by a qaf with a kasra. Sin, neen, both has kasra before the ya. Alladhi, dhal has a kasra before the ya. So we have realized that all the 3 vowels, the a, u, e, could be med letters, provided that it has a haraka that is matching it. Fatha before the alif, dhamma before the waw, kasra before the ya. So a, u, e, all of them can be mad letters. On the other hand, the leen can only be for the waw and ya, and the alif cannot be a leen letter. The reason is that we said the leen can happen only if you have a fatha before the vowel, and alif does not require a fatha before it, while the waw could have a fatha. We'll see an example. Qawm. The qaf here has a fatha before the u, which has sukoon. Qawm. This could be a leen letter. And saw. Also, the sin has a fatha before the sukoon on the waw. And in case of the ya, similar examples could be saif. The ya here is a leen letter because it has a letter preceding it with a fatha above it. And similarly, al-layl. The lam before the ya here has a fatha. So still vowels with sukoon preceded by a letter with fatha is the leen. Still vowel with a sukoon preceded by a homogeneous letter with matching haraka is a mad. We spent the last few minutes differentiating the mad and the leen letters. Now we'll move to describe what we mean by presented sukoon in our definition. The sukoon, the status of being still, can either be an original sukoon or a presented sukoon. The original sukoon happens when the sukoon is part of the original makeup of the word. It's present in all situations, whether upon continuing recitation or upon stopping recitation. While we define the sukoon to be presented when it is only presented upon the occasion of stopping recitation on a particular word. And again, we'll illustrate this by examples. We'll start by an example on the presented sukoon. When the word al-alamina is not originally static, it has a haraka, no sukoon. It has a fatha here. That word, when we pronounce it upon continuous recitation, we say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. We realize that we have pronounced al-alamina with a fatha, with a haraka. But when we pause recitation upon the end of this word, when we say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, in that case, the fatha is converted into a sukoon. So that sukoon is only presented, it's only present only upon pausing recitation. Thus, we call it presented sukoon. It's different from the original sukoon, which is always present as a natural part of the makeup of the word. So what's the effect of the presented sukoon on mad rule? If we don't pause on the word with haraka, then we don't lengthen the vowel for more than 2 units. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. The ya of al-alamina, which has a haraka and that we didn't pause upon, wouldn't be extended or not lengthened beyond the natural lengthening of 2 units. While on the other hand, if we stop upon this, if we pause the recitation on al-alamina, we say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. In this case, the ya is lengthened according to the presented sukoon mad rule, which allows us to elongate the mad letter for more than the 2 natural units, up to 4 and 6 units if we want. So, while continuous al-alamina is only extended for 2 units, while if we stop at al-alameen, we can extend it for 2 to 4 to 6 units. So the rule whenever we have a presented sukoon, either with a mad letter or a leen letter, is to allow elongation of that vowel, being a mad or a leen, for 2 units, or for 4 units, or for 6 units. So when we want to extend the ya of al-alameen, we can elongate it for 2 units, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, or for 4 units, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, or Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Let's take more examples on the presented sukoon mad. The first example is related to the ya, al-alameen. We've just taken that example where we said that the ya here, if we go beyond the end of al-alameen and read continuously without stopping at al-alameen, then the ya would be extended naturally only for 2 units. On the other hand, if we pause at al-alameen, then that fatha will be converted into a sukoon, and this becomes a mad عارض للسكون, a presented سكون mad. So the ya, we pronounce it as العالمين 2 or العالمين 4 or 6 units. العالمين. Now المقربون is an example for the واو. عيني يشرب بها المقربون. المقربون, if we pause upon the noon, then it becomes with a sukoon, and we extend المقربون. In that case, it's a mad عارض للسكون or a presented sukoon mad. Another example, الوهاب. العزيز الوهاب. If we pause at the ba, then it becomes a mad عارض للسكون, and we pronounce it العزيز الوهاب, a presented sukoon mad that can be extended for 2 to 4 to 6 units. Now we're going to take examples of Leen mad. Al-Bayt and Al-Khawf, one with a ya, one with a waw. Remember, there is no alif for the Leen. So the first example, Al-Bayt. وَإِذْ بَوَّأْنَا لِإِبْرَاهِيمَ مَكَانَ الْبَيْتِ أَلَّا تُشْرِكْ بِي شَيْئًا. Now if we pause at Al-Bayt, وَإِذْ بَوَّأْنَا لِإِبْرَاهِيمَ مَكَانَ الْبَيْتِ, in that case, we extend this ya for a duration of 2 units or 4 units or 6 units as a Leen mad. And the ya here is considered a Leen letter rather than a mad letter because we have it preceded by a letter with a fatha and it has a sukoon. Next example is khawf and is related to the waw, which is presented in this case as a Leen letter. الخوف ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال. Now if we stop at the fa, which has a kasra, then we pronounce this as الخوف. We elongate this waw for 2 to 4 to 6 units. This waw is not a mad letter, it is a Leen letter because it was preceded by a letter with a fatha. Now we'll apply some practice on what we have just learned by attempting to extract presented sukoon mad and Leen mad from the shaded verses of this Quran page and conclude the related tajweed rule. Remember, we're looking for a mad with the orange color. We'll start first by Rahim. We realize here that Rahimun has a tanween on it, but upon stopping on it, it gets a presented sukoon and will be pronounced Rahim. That is a presented sukoon mad. Another example is Yashkuruna. We realize that the noon has a fatha, but it is at the end of the verse. So if we pause recitation at Yashkurun, then we will be allowed to lengthen the waw as per the presented sukoon mad rule. Yashkurun. And now more examples in these shaded verses, concentrating on Leen lengthening examples. Quraysh here, the ya is preceded by a letter with a fatha. Ya has sukoon and it's preceded with a fatha, so it's a Leen letter. And again it has a tanween kasr, Qurayshin. But if we pause on Quraysh, then we extend it, we lengthen it for 2 to 4 to 6 units. And we say لِإِلَافِ قُرَيْشٍ, a Leen mad. Another example is هذا البيت. Al-Bayti, we find that the ta has a kasra and the ya has a sukoon and preceded by a fatha, so it's a Leen letter. If we pause on this, we'll say رب هذا البيت. We extend it by the rule of the Leen mad, which is 2 to 4 to 6 units. Another example is khawf. Khawf, the waw has a sukoon and is preceded by a letter with a fatha, so it's a Leen letter. And again, khawfin, the fa has a kasra below it, but if we pause on it, then we say وَآمَنَهُمْ مِنْ خَوْفٍ, a Leen mad to be extended 2 to 4 to 6 units. Now we can summarize the presented sukoon mad and the Leen mad lesson in one slide. Both are of a secondary type mad, and the terms for presented sukoon to happen, it occurs when a mad letter is followed by a presented sukoon upon pausing recitation. And almost the same rule applies for the Leen. but it differs in that it applies for a Leen letter rather than a med. And as for the letters, there are 3 letters for the presented Sukoon med, the A, the U, and the E, while there are only 2 letters for the Leen med, the U and the E, and those 2 vowels are considered Leen letters due to being preceded by a fatha. And both has the same Tajweed rule, which is to allow elongation, med, for 2 to 4 to 6 units. And the example for the alif of the presented Sukoon is Al-Wahhab, and for the ya, Al-Alameen, and for the waw, Al-Muqarrabun. Notice all of them are med letters, and they have been getting a presented Sukoon due to the pausing upon the word that they come within. Then we gave examples for the Leen, and noticed that the alif does not have a Leen example because it cannot be a Leen letter, but there is for the ya, al-bayt. This ya has a Sukoon and is preceded by a letter with a fatha, and for the waw, min khawf, waw Sukoon preceded by a fatha. And with this summary, we reach the end of this lesson on the presented Sukoon med and the Leen med. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that بعونه وقدرته that the Quran Learning Management System برنامج الجامع لحفظة كتاب الله would help you inshallah to improve your tajweed and improve your tilawah and help you in improving your recitation and help you if you want in memorizing the Quran and to help you understand the Quran in the proper way. As we reach the end, we ask Al-Mawla Azza wa Jal أن يتقبل منا هذا العمل. We ask Allah Almighty to accept this work from us, and we ask you to make dua for those who participated in making this work come to life and reach you. Hoping you all the best. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.